Joining me now, Democratic Congressman from California, Robert Garcia. He's the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, give me your initial reaction to Trump's push to make Blanche the Attorney General.
Well, first, it's not surprising. I mean, obviously, he should not have been appointed. He should certainly have not be nominated for the full position. Remember, Todd Blanche was, of course, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, and Donald Trump wants him to continue that role. He has been doing a complete weaponization of the DOJ. He has gone after Donald Trump's perceived enemies. He is serving as Donald Trump's personal counsel. And to then nominate him for the permanent job, the Senate has got to stop this. This is the person, by the way, that the former AG, Pam Bondi, pointed all fingers at, who's been responsible for the huge cover-up around the Epstein investigation. The survivors have called Todd Blanche out. He's been weaponizing, of course, supporting the January 6ers, the weaponization fund that Donald Trump tried to start. So he has been at the center of so much of the corruption within the administration, and certainly a big part of the cover-up that's been happening as it relates to the Epstein files. And so senators should absolutely reject this nomination. It's a horrific pick.
So we should mention Todd Blanche is someone you personally would like to talk to as part of your Epstein investigation. And as you alluded to, you told the committee chair, James Comer, in a letter, former Attorney General Pam Bondi repeatedly shifted responsibility to Blanche, mentioning him some 30 times in that interview. You know, we saw the transcripts, we didn't see video. What answers are you looking for from him, especially as he seeks this new role?
Well, first, Pam Bondi deflected to Todd Blanche over 30 times. This included questions, by the way, that we asked about President Trump, about what he may or may not have known about the Epstein investigation. And the fact that every single time we asked a question, Pam Bondi basically said, well, go at Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche was the one responsible for the redactions. Todd Blanche was the one that would know why Ghislaine Maxwell got moved to a less secure prison, a convicted sex trafficker of children and women. And so all of this goes back on Mr. Blanche. And why Donald Trump would then want to elevate him to the permanent job? Look, Donald Trump is loyal to anyone that's loyal to him. He wants someone that's going to serve as his personal attorney. Todd Blanche has done that job before. And Todd Blanche works for one person only, and that's Donald Trump. And so we should be very clear about what is happening here. It's just a continuation of the corruption at the DOJ. And senators should come out strongly and oppose this nomination. He should not be confirmed as the AG.
You think Republican senators will reject this?
I hope that some Republican senators, especially those that Donald Trump has been attacking in the press, I hope some of them actually get some courage and stand up and oppose this nomination. He should not be confirmed. This person doxed survivors in the Epstein investigation. He put survivors in harm's way, the way these redactions were actually done. There's been a massive cover-up going on. He's been supporting January 6ers, the people that attacked our Capitol. He tried to negotiate a $1.8 billion fund so that Trump could enrich himself, his family, and election deniers across the country. And so he certainly should not have been nominated, and we'll see what happens in the days ahead. But I'm hoping that senators reject any attempt by Donald Trump to put Todd Blanche in the permanent role.
So back to the Epstein investigation, committee chair James Comer did just write to Todd Blanche asking him why he never contacted Epstein's longtime assistant, Sarah Kellen, when she was a person who gave your committee specific names of people involved in the abuse. Do you think you're going to get a response from him?
I mean, look, I hope we do. It's very important that people understand that all the central figures in this investigation that have information, whether they were essentially his biggest financiers, like Les Wexner, his personal former lawyer and accountant, Richard Kahn and Darren Indyke, or some of the other folks that worked in the orbit, like assistants and other folks that worked in the homes, none of these people were ever interviewed by the FBI or the DOJ. And they were all in Epstein's circle. And so the question has to be asked, why were the folks that knew the most about Epstein and his crimes and the co-conspirators, why were none of them actually ever contacted by authorities on this investigation? That points to someone trying to cover this up. They didn't want the truth. They didn't want convictions. They didn't want the men who abused women and children to actually be held accountable. And so now we're finally saying enough. The DOJ has failed. The president has tried to call this a hoax. But we're going to continue to press on, and in some cases, hopefully, in a bipartisan way, in actually getting the truth.
In a slightly different lane on the Epstein investigation, Bill Gates is going to sit down for a closed-door transcribed interview with your committee next week. How are you preparing for that? What's your biggest question you want to ask?
Well, look, we've been supportive of bringing Mr. Gates in. What we've said from day one is we don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you have any information about what happened, if you were involved, obviously, in any of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crimes, or if you know anything that we need to have for our investigation, we want to talk to you. We obviously know that Mr. Gates was friendly with Mr. Epstein. He has said since then that he regrets that. Well, we have questions. And I think it's important to get answers from anyone that was in Mr. Epstein's orbit. And so we could care less about party affiliation or position of power. We want the truth.
The president has also appointed Bill Pulte, director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, to acting director of national intelligence. And even some Republicans aren't on board with this. Let's listen.
I don't think he has a prayer being confirmed by the U.S. Senate. I don't believe he's ever had a security clearance. He clearly has no experience in intelligence. He has no geopolitical experience, no international connections, the sorts of things you would look for.
So it's not so unique that Tillis would be outspoken, but Senator Mitch McConnell also warned that someone who doesn't have the required national security experience wouldn't have his vote. As someone who has previously raised concerns about Pulte pushing for investigations into Trump's political enemies, do you think there will be enough Republicans, with concerns to stop him from getting this job?
There obviously have been now a few Republicans that have come out and opposed this nomination. I'm happy to see that. I hope they'll do the same for Todd Blanche. Remember, Mr. Pulte has zero experience in national security. No experience, and as it relates to the important information that our intelligence agencies share with each other and that are used to protect our country and allies and Americans abroad. And this idea that we're going to put somebody with zero experience, whose main job was basically to go after Donald Trump's enemies as it relates within his powers within running some of our mortgage programs here in the United States, is ridiculous. He has no business heading up our national intelligence programs. And certainly, what's really important here is why he's being actually appointed. It's because he's a Donald Trump loyalist. He's Donald Trump's friend. He's been loyal to the president. He's gone after some of the president's political enemies, like Tish James, like Senator Adam Schiff. And so it's ridiculous that he would then lead our intelligence agencies. And so senators, again, should oppose this. I mean, look, I know Donald Trump's only got 2 years left in office, but he's absolutely, these appointments are crazy. And so senators have got to push back and recognize that the Donald Trump era is going to end here in a couple of years, and to stop these horrific appointments and his horrific agenda.